Hi there, Karen. How are you this evening? Yeah, sure. Karen, thanks for having me on because I reckon this is a pretty important event. Test the Curve Day 2020. What's the curve? Well, we're talking about an experiment where, like, look, let's cut to the chase. People have been talking about, the shape of the Earth for thousands of years. What is this shape? And in particularly the last 5 years, we've had this major resurgence of, people questioning the shape of the Earth. Is it flat? Is it a ball? And you've probably seen the debate online, and it's pretty hard to miss these days. And I don't know if there's anyone that is walking this earth now that hasn't heard those two words, flat and earth, combined, right? And they do trigger people. I don't know why. We should always question reality. I know we do have, photos of NASA from photos of the Earth from space from NASA. Whether people, whether you believe NASA, a lot of people don't find them as a credible source of information, especially after, like, put it this way, if you don't believe in the moon landings, well, how do you trust NASA as a source of information? If they lied to you once, they can lie to you again. So anyway, to cut to the chase, Test the Curve Day it's a day where it's a collective experiment where I'm inviting people from all around the world to gather together with, a small group of friends and go out and test the curve. Let's test the Earth for curvature. How can we do that? We've got equipment that far exceeds what people like Aristotle or Eratosthenes and guys like that 2,500 years ago. Even Galileo only had a 3-time optical zoom on his telescope, and our telescopes now, far exceed that. Even a Nikon camera, the latest one, the P1000, has a 125 times zoom. Galileo would have fallen off his chair if he'd seen the equipment we've got these days. So we can get out and test the curve of the Earth. How can we do that? Aristotle said 2,500 years ago that because he saw a boat vanish over the horizon and it disappeared bottom first and it eventually vanished, he said that was due to curvature. People now, back then, it's around 2,500 years ago. If you look at Greek paintings and even architecture, they were still learning perspective. And perspective is such a, when you talk about visual perspective, it's such a complex paradigm that you could, enter, because our eyes are very complex, and they didn't understand it. And I don't think Aristotle took everything into account. And from that, we had, Eratosthenes, who then, took it further by using an assumed radius that Pythagoras had come up with. So all these old guys had done these tests, and we took it verbatim. And I want to get out there and do it again. I actually go to the beach with my camera and I zoom in as far as I can. I get boats and bring them back into view. So again, Aristotle, all these guys would be blown away with the technology. So the idea is to get people out there and do their own experiments. And that's what it really comes down to. Secondhand information is not credible information. And I just want people to get out and understand their Earth and learn about the horizon and what's actually happening with perspective and what's happening with, humidity on a particular day that'll stop you seeing so far, or seeing a type of mirage that people have confused refraction of light for curvature. When a boat is disappearing bottom down, they've confused that for curvature. But in fact, what's actually happening is your perspective and angular resolution, and you've got refraction of light on different days, because we know the atmosphere is not standard. There's no 2 days that are alike. Especially when you're looking over water, it could, and the variables differ depending if you're looking over salt water or fresh water, etc. So what we've had is, over the last few years, technology has caught up with itself, with the lie, if you like. The world record long distance photo was 273 miles, which is 440 kilometers, from mountain peak to mountain peak. And even factoring in Earth curvature formula, there was 9 or so kilometers of missing curvature. That's problematic. People say, oh, it's because of light, the refraction of light, and that's why we could see it, because light. Yeah, well, it does. It can do that as well. It can. But that's why you got to go. So can we use cameras? Yeah, we could use cameras to some level, but there's a pun that I dropped. Level. What is level? What can we use that we know is level on Earth? Water. And we know water is level. If you put water in a glass, and I think it's self-explanatory, really. People are waking up to the fact that, there's something wrong with not just one lie, but it's a collection of lies. And could this be one of them? So let's test the curve. And it was a scientist about a few months ago that was interviewed on Flat Earth. She's an astrophysicist, and she literally said, look, to test the curve, you need to go out to 1 million locations and do it. Well, let's get out there. There's billions of people on this planet or plane or whatever it is, across the pond, whatever your terminology is. And there's enough of us out there to solve this problem once and for all. Karen, this has been a bit of are we cutting this? Is this in or is this out of the video? Oh man. And my brain is actually fried, I reckon, sitting on the computer looking at, I've got 2 monitors here, so you're just on that all the time and trying to finish this video. But it's done and it's been shared now, and it's a good thing about it. So I really thank you for having me on the show, even if it wasn't,